Hey everyone, what's up? So this video is not for my sister because I have told her all of these things, but it's kind of like if one of you was like my sister and you had questions about birth stuff, I want to share with you what I have shared with my sister, who, if this isn't obvious at this point, is pregnant and is about to have her first baby at home, God willing. So today I want to talk through 10 lessons that I learned from having 2 home births. Technically, I've had 3 home births because I did miscarry my second baby, and I actually delivered my baby at home in my bathtub that time as well. And that is not so much, I mean, kind of I'll hit some of that in here, but really these are just tips and things that I've learned. If you are pursuing a home birth, you're about to have a baby, you just want some tips around childbirth in general, I'm hoping that this video can be helpful for you guys. A lot of you have probably seen my home births on the internet because we filmed both of them, and they were amazing and incredible. And my first home birth was amazing and incredible, but dare I say that my second one was even better. And if we do end up being blessed with another child someday, I just feel like I've learned so much going into that, if that's what happens. And I want to share that with you guys because I get a lot of questions about birth, and I feel like home birth is becoming more popular, just natural home birth. And I have thoughts, I have tips, I have opinions, and I've learned a lot. And I learned a lot even from my first home birth that affected my second home birth and made it so much better than my first. No offense, Logan. My first was great too. A lot of people would look at my first home birth and say that it was like a dream. So it's all relative here, but really my second home birth was like, much better. I got everything I hoped and asked for, and let's hop into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the idea of trusting your gut and your intuition versus your fear in pregnancy. This is probably one of the biggest lessons that I actually learned in my second home birth, not my first. Although I learned it in my first too. I take that back because I was terrified at the idea of doing a home birth. And you guys actually were the ones that stepped up to me when I had expressed an interest in home birth and saying like, oh man, if I wasn't like pseudo online famous, I would do a home birth, but I'm too scared because then everybody would know if something went wrong. And so many of you guys were like, no girl, step into your faith and walk out the birth that you want. And so it was very scary because it was my first birth, and experiencing it, seeing it go so well, so beautifully, everything that I had researched like basically played out that way, was such a gift in this like concept, this idea of like following your gut. And in my second pregnancy, I have not really shared a ton of details about like what I'm really alluding to when I say this, but there was a lot of health concerns. There were concerns that my midwife had. There were concerns that we had. And I really had to specifically walk through those concerns with my friend slash doula, who I did interview, by the way. She is a former nurse, like from the mainstream medical establishment, that is now essentially like a free birth doula. Check that out if you want to check that out, because she has such an incredible story, so much great insight. But she was someone who, when I was really afraid, she asked me a few times, like, how do you think your baby's doing? And I was like, I don't know. Like, how am I supposed to know that? And she's like, what do you think? And I'm like, my first reaction is to say, everything is fine. Just let me be pregnant and make my baby. And my second reaction is that I'm scared that I might be wrong, that there is something up with me or my baby. And I remember her walking me through and saying the first reaction is usually your intuition, and the other reactions are the layers of fear. And so I really recommend that you follow your gut. And along those lines, I don't know if this is a separate tip or that I wrote down, or if this also goes hand in hand with that. So this is kind of leading into the second tip, but along with that is paying attention to the instinct of your husband. When we had some health concerns come up in the pregnancy, I remember I was really freaking out, and a friend of mine said to me, what does Dan think? Because whatever Dan thinks is worthwhile and important. And in culture, I feel like there is a downplaying of the dad's role in the whole process, honestly, the creation of the life, the birth, all of it. But she was like, he is the second closest person to that baby on the planet, and God has given him a spiritual connection to that baby. What does your husband think? And when we were going through that issue in particular, I remember Dan was like, I think everything's fine. I feel great about it. And my friend was like, then that's worth paying attention to. So not only trusting your own intuition, but tapping into your husband's feelings as well, I think is very crucial as you walk out like the natural home birth process. Okay, so the second thing along those lines is that your husband can really help you, okay? So in my first birth with Logan, I had this impression that there was nothing Dan could do for me. Like, I'm the one that has to have this baby. No one else can have this baby for me, which is true. No one else can have the baby for you, but people can help you. And I learned in this last birth that Dan could really help me because the work that he was able to do on my body, specifically pushing on my hips with his knee or with his knees, was literally like made the whole birth process totally different, like totally different having his help with my labor versus with Logan. Dan was asleep for like most of the labor because he was sick and on cold medicine. And I didn't wake him up because I literally thought, what can he do for me? This is my birth, my delivery. Suck it up, Nikki. And that made for a much more painful, much more fear-filled birth process. So that is the second thing. Your husband can do a lot for you, probably a lot more than you think. And or doula. Some people, it's like the same things you might be leaning on a doula for. Basically, a helper, a partner for your birth, they can help a lot. Okay, here's another one you've probably heard before, but fear in labor makes the whole labor a lot worse. So I was terrified in my labor with Logan, way more scared than I was in my labor with Lizzie. And part of that was because of what I said. Dan was awake and with me in my labor with Lizzie. I realized that having his energy, his input, his vibes totally changed my vibes in the labor. It was like, wow, I'm so much more like excited and like, I'm going to meet my baby and like with it. And when I would feel afraid, Dan would like make a funny, timely joke, or like get me water or tell me like, it's okay, you're okay, and he was there to squeeze my hips. But the fear makes the process worse. I really believe that that's a huge part of why my labor with Logan was much worse than my labor with Lizzie, because I was afraid for like 11 hours straight. Whereas with Lizzie, I really wasn't afraid. Like that isn't even the word I would use. Like I was afraid, but like that doesn't really feel like the right word. Having him there, his presence, choosing to focus on excitement and focus on the breathing, which I think is one of the other tips, just made the whole thing just a lot better. So fear makes labor worse. Oh, I did add in here, but yes, only you can deliver your baby. So there's kind of this double-sided thing of like, people can help you. A doula can help you. So don't think that it's just you by yourself. Your husband can help you. It doesn't have to just be you by yourself. By the way, even though Jess was my doula, she did not attend our birth. I should clarify that. If you've seen my birth video, you know that. But she was a great support during pregnancy. But the thing is, you're kind of straddling this line of like, other people can help you. And yet simultaneously, it is true that only you can deliver your baby. You are the one walking through the fire of labor and delivery. And so there is this both thing of accepting help and also accepting that you got to do it, mama, and you can do it. You are made to do it. Here's another thing I learned. It hurt. Labor and delivery hurt, but I'm going to be honest with you. Okay. And this is just if you have a natural, good process of a vaginal delivery. I will say my surgeries actually hurt much worse than labor and delivery did, like legit. And even besides my surgeries, like when I dislocated my knee a couple of years ago, that was way more painful than delivering my baby. So if you are a first-time mom that is afraid of the pain, I just want to throw it out there that if everything goes well for you and like naturally how it should and most likely will go, especially if you're birthing at home, because the chances of it going the way it's supposed to go increase, in my opinion, when you're at home because of your own comfort and the ability of your body to produce the cascade of like hormones that will make your body birth the way it's supposed to. Did that make sense? If all of that happens, I just want to let you know that birth is less painful than many other things that may have happened in your life. For me, my hip surgery, my knee dislocation, it was easier than all of those things. And I think it's because it's natural. Like that is what your body was designed to do. So it just was I thought it was going to be like the most painful thing I've ever experienced. And I'm happy to report that it was not. Okay, next tip. Breathing exercises work. Guys, they work. They work. I thought that the whole breathing exercises thing, like just breathe, was kind of like a scam, like, or insulting. Like they're just like, just take some breaths. And you're like, oh, I am breathing. No, you need to learn specific breathing exercises, because once I worked with a pelvic floor therapist before I had Lizzie, she is the one that really made me aware, brought it to my attention, that by doing these breathing exercises, you can often like counteract the contraction that is happening when it's happening. So like when you're breathing and filling out your uterus with air while your uterus is trying to contract, you're essentially pushing against the contraction and making it feel less painful. Kind of like how when your husband is pushing on your hips during the contraction, it's like counter pressure that helps to relieve the pain. So the breathing exercises, they literally help to relieve the pain. So you really want to do research on different breathing exercises, and you'll probably lean more towards one type of breathing exercise. I pretty much had one that I did the whole time. I don't remember it exactly, other than the fact that I remember I was breathing into my uterus to fill it out, like down and out while I was having contractions. But I don't remember the details beyond that. I just want to tell you, I thought the breathing thing was a scam or like a little bit condescending. No, it literally helps like dramatically with pain relief. Oh, another tip. This is a little more boring. If you're planning on birthing at home and you're doing a tub, like a blow up tub to birth in, which I highly recommend. I did that my second time and it was much better than the first time. And that's another thing that was better than the first time. Blow up the tub ahead of time, because I tried to do a tub for my birth with Logan and everybody on the internet said the same thing. Oh, it's so common for first time moms to accidentally not get the tub filled up in time and not be able to birth in there. I was like, that's not going to be me. That was totally us. That was totally me. If we had blown up the tub ahead of time, I believe I would have birthed in there, because he could have just filled up the water. But the whole process of like pulling out the tub, figuring out how to fill up the air, getting the hose hooked, it was just too much, too last minute. So with Lizzie, we had the tub already blown up, filled up with air, and we had like all the stuff that we needed for when it was go time, like set aside and ready to go. And so I was able to birth in the tub and it was better. So blow up your tub ahead of time. You don't have to fill it with water. That's not what I'm saying. I realized I was telling my sister that, and her husband was like, well, I don't want a tub with water just sitting in the basement. I was like, oh, I'm not being clear here. Not the water, just the air in the tub. So that all you have to worry about when it's go time is just getting the water in the tub. Trust me. Apparently it is very common for first-time parents to not time that out properly and not get to birth in the tub. Oh, another thing is I realized that I am more powerful than I thought I was. Now, granted, I do think part of it is a psyop, that there is this thing in culture that is telling women everywhere that birth is so hard, and like maybe it's not as hard as they're telling everyone, but also birth is hard. And it made me realize like both are true, right? It made me realize I am more powerful than maybe I'm giving myself credit for, especially mentally. Like choosing to birth at home is a little bit of a mind game, because it is still not, especially here in America, it is not the norm. And so you are choosing to buck up against the norm, and buck up is maybe too strong of a word, but you're choosing something different, and people will let you know that they're not comfortable with you choosing something different. And you know that you care about your baby more than anyone else in the world, and you want your baby to be safe, and that's a big reason why you're choosing home birth, because you have developed a whole philosophical medical belief around how birth is supposed to unfold, the situation that is best for your body to be able to give birth, like what makes a natural birth most possible. You have these beliefs, but you're still afraid. You're still not totally sure, like, am I making the right decision? So it takes mental power, ultimately the grace of God, but like you're a part of this too. And it takes mental power. And I realized after those, like, wow, I'm more powerful than I thought. I can do hard things and I can make choices that are maybe not the norm or not super popular, and they can be the right choice. That is something just in general in my births. It gave me a certain level of confidence, not only in myself, but also in my faith with the Lord, and learning how to trust me and my husband's own spiritual leadings from God over the voices of other people. And the last thing that I learned from my home births is that life is truly miraculous. It is so fragile and it is perfectly designed. When my babies came out of me, I just couldn't believe it. It was just so shocking. Like God literally, I just got chills, knit you together this perfectly in my womb. Like it was so mind-blowing that I had zero involvement in the process, and yet someone popped out. They're looking at me now and I can see their soul that they are a unique person. And it is so mind-blowing and truly miraculous. There are times where, our body doesn't do exactly what we hoped it would do. It's not going to play out exactly perfectly. And I'm grateful for hospitals and the emergency services that the providers are able to provide. But in general, as a blanket statement, I truly believe that our body is designed to be able to grow and carry life and to deliver our babies, including miscarriages. Not to end this, I don't want to end this on a dark note. It's always kind of like you tread carefully, but even miscarriages, I was able to miscarry my baby at home in my tub by the grace of God, and my body knew what to do. You could see it as a betrayal, your body terminating the baby, but I actually think it's that our bodies are incredibly smart and beautifully, miraculously designed. And I'm just so grateful for my home birth experiences. And if you are going down that path, I just want to encourage you. You've got this, mama. Keep watching videos that teach you, encourage you, keep your mind in a positive space, watch positive births, and hear stories from moms. Because once you start looking, I know people talk about negative birth stories, but there are more positive birth stories on the internet than you could ever find time to watch. And that really changes your psyche into being something that is like, I think I can do this. I hope I can do this, to feeling like, okay, women do this all the time everywhere. Like, yes, something could go wrong, but the odds are kind of in my favor that things are going to go right. You know what I mean? So, you got this, mama. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I hope this video was encouraging or helpful to someone out there. And I will, God willing, see you guys back here soon with another new video. Bye, guys.